Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. Wedding Salon is grateful to be able to really give back to our community at this time and help our couples that are, super stressed out with their weddings. And trust me, the vendors are just as stressed out. And so we're really excited to have an incredible group of panelists today that can help answer a lot of your questions that we've received. And just as an introduction, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tatiana. I'm CEO and founder of Wedding Salon, and we produce our bridal shows. And all of our events have been postponed to next year. And so, but we are very excited to be part of the community and to share all the knowledge that we have. And so without further ado, because we always start on time and we end on time, and feel free as you have questions to send them along throughout the webinar. And we're going to start with introductions that will be handled by our panelists. I pass the torch.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Danny Estrella. I am owner and operator of Music to the Max, DJ entertainment and event production company. We've been a vendor with the Wedding Salon for quite a long time. I would say, I think 12 to like 15 years, something crazy like that. But in the recent events and all the cool changes that have been happening, we're looking to share some of our experience with you and hopefully answer as many questions as we can to ensure everybody that this is, the new norm. And there's a lot of really cool trends and a lot of different things that are happening. Using technology is definitely a good advantage, and that's something we're very well-versed and experienced in.
Thank you, Danny.
I believe, Jacqueline?
He's amazing, by the way, guys. Amazing, amazing. Sorry.
We're Jacqueline and Jay, and we are documentary wedding photographers. And we've also been a part of Wedding Salon for a really long time. I don't even know how many years. We love Tatiana. She's the best. And we're here to help and support you. We hope that we can help you feel a little bit calmer so you feel great to thrive and enjoy your beautiful day.
I agree.
He's also my husband. We're also a couple.
Hi guys, I'm Josie Holmes. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I am a licensed esthetician and manager at Skinny Med Spa and Wellness. We are New York's premier location for the newest invasive cosmetic treatments for both the face and the body. So I am here to answer any and all of your bridal beauty questions, how we are preparing and working with our brides for those sort of postponed weddings or have scaled back, and how we can kind of help you look beautiful on your most important day. And thank you for having me. We are also proud to be a partner with the Wedding Salon, and I'm excited to talk with all of you.
Hi guys, I'm Lauren Kay. I'm the executive editor at The Knot. You might know us for our website or our magazine, but we too are in the business of helping couples amazing weddings, and we are working overtime right now as you guys are all facing challenges thanks to COVID-19. We have lots of resources on our website, and I'm super excited to be here today to answer all your questions. Hopefully we can give you some direction. I can't make all the big decisions for you, but I'll try and help guide you. And if there's anything we don't get to today, you can always check back on our Instagram page or any of our social channels. We're answering questions all the time live.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Woody Wells. I'm the managing director of the Shoals Club on Baldhead Island. So we are a beach club on a barrier island in North Carolina off the coast. A little unique. We're accessible by passenger ferry only, so everyone gets around on golf carts. And so we have a strong spring and fall wedding season, and this one's a little different than most, as you can imagine. And so I hope to be able to offer you some insight into how venues and vendors are handling contracts and some things that we're seeing here with our weddings that we have coming up.
All right, good morning. I'm Camilla Kinchlow. I am with the Balboa Bay Resort. I am the Director of Sales here. We are sitting right here in the beautiful, luxurious Newport Beach, California. We're so excited to have everyone here joining us today with Wedding Salon. I am here to just tell you how we are handling the COVID crisis, obviously with physical distancing, how you can continue to do your weddings. My team has come up with some very resourceful ways to continue with celebrations throughout the year. We are in a premier destination, waterfront location that offers over 31,000 square feet of event spaces. And all of our event spaces are primarily outdoors. So it's definitely a way to continue to have weddings during this challenge. And I'm here to answer any questions that I can as far as hotels and resorts.
Thank you so much. And everyone, it's such a pleasure to have you. And the first question that we received from our couples, and I'm going to direct that to Lauren, is what are the top 3 trends that you are currently seeing in weddings?
Okay, I don't know if I can narrow them down to 3, but I'm going to do my best. I think we're all trying to have the same kinds of weddings we used to have before the new normal of COVID took place. So what we are seeing now is a real emphasis on turning the new normal and making it fun, right? So there are lots of inventive hand sanitizing solutions we're seeing come to light. We're even hearing that gloves may come back in fashion, much the way they were when they were like beautiful silk gloves for events. Masks, a lot of couples are getting custom masks made with their wedding date or any kind of details on it that makes it simple and fun for them. But most of the trends we're seeing are regarding how to have your wedding. So definitely trends around small ceremonies, what we're calling a mini-moni, and sequel weddings, which are a big deal, which is when we celebrate when everything feels even more normal. We're seeing a lot of changes for people who are still holding weddings of some kind around catering. There's no more buffets. We're really seeing a lot of people think about social distancing on dance floors, setting up satellite bars so that people have an option to kind of move around and give everyone a little bit of air, a little bit of space. And we're also seeing some different options for how to celebrate. A lot of them now include some sort of virtual element, so people who might not feel comfortable traveling, or maybe who aren't able to make the trip or celebrate with you due to capacity restrictions from the CDC can still be a part of it. So that could be Zoom, it could be webcams. There's lots of creative solutions, but couples are really trying to think outside the box and bring a really special day together, still keeping all those earmarks of a big wedding as much as possible in these unprecedented times.
Thank you. And I'm going to also ask a similar question to some of our other panelists. So Danny, what changes and trends are you seeing in your space, in the entertainment space?
So a few changes and trends that we're noticing are, like Lauren had mentioned, adding maybe some technology like a little Zoom station with a webcam so that other guests who weren't able to make it, whether it's through, traveling restrictions or just, social distancing space and actual capacity for each venue, it's definitely something you want to include as many people in, even if it's virtually, to still be able to have some sort of interaction, creating a little chat. Like we were doing this a few years ago with destination weddings, where like somebody who couldn't travel to a destination, they would be able to be seen on, some sort of a virtual element. So I'm seeing a lot of that where we're doing that during the cocktail hour or actually in the corner of a reception room. I've done a few weddings already. And obviously a lot of outdoor stuff is happening. People are really taking advantage of the venues that have a lot of outdoors to be able to create a seating area or a dance floor outdoors. So that way everybody feels a little less cluttered, a little more spacious. And, things that you can work with, try to do your best to take full advantage of them. And for the wedding that we just did in Long Island, they had an agreement, a disclaimer for all the vendors, which was pretty cool to make sure that everybody was working responsibly, which is also important.
Now, you had mentioned earlier that you had already done a Zoom wedding. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was actually really cool. 2 brides were supposed to get married back in May in St. Petersburg. So instead of actually flying out there and doing all that stuff, I set up a whole Zoom wedding with them where we showed pictures as everybody was arriving of the resort so they could see what's going to happen. They just rescheduled their wedding for next year. So everybody was able to see what they're looking forward to. So it was like a wedding preview, but then they actually had a small ceremony where they officially got married, and they exchanged vows. They had their own rings, and this was all from the comfort of their living room. They did wear beach wear because they wanted to be fun and keep everybody animated. We did a dance party segment. I also did that 20 questions couples game with the shoe. So that was cute, and be able to eat up a little time to make sure everybody stays involved. You know, a lot of people watching Zoom now are like, okay, when's this over? Let me turn my camera off or whatever. But everybody was in the chat, like guessing and, you know, even laughing. And we did a couple of sing-alongs as a DJ. You know, it's hard for me to get involved virtually, but we were able to get everybody to sing along or even put requests in the chat. And if they really liked the song, they actually got up and danced. And some people were having cocktails. And by the end, they didn't need too many cocktails, but it was in the comfort of their home. So it was safe and it was good. But it was nice. And it lasted for an hour and a half. And it really, you know, kept everybody lively, and it kept them interested and looking forward to the actual day. So that was cool.
That's awesome. And how about Jacqueline? What are you guys seeing that's changed in the world of wedding photography?
Well, people are doing smaller weddings, less guests outside, and they're concentrating on things that are the most meaningful to them. So things like colors and flowers and traditions are even more important now and being made even more special.
Great. And Camia, how about yourself?
So with our property, we're seeing the same, very smaller engagements. One of the things that we've created, because we've been listening to the feedback from our clients and our customers, obviously having 200 people is not ideal at this point, but people still want to hold on to their date. Those dates mean something to them. So they're holding on to those and creating smaller engagements. So we've been listening and we've created what we call an elopement package, and where it ties in the ceremony along with the dinner. I think most of the questions that we get as a resort is, how do we service? And that's what our customers are looking for. Obviously, they still want to have some of the same fun elements, like a tray passed, you know, reception, the cocktail champagne toast. They still want to do the plated dinner. So my team, our event services team, has been looking at, how do we still service that? How do we service it accordingly and still giving them that same feel and same engagement? So one of the things that we've created is, instead of doing a tray pass where your tray pass is open, our tray pass is covered. It has little cute little containers that are individually serviced in. Our customers are still receiving it that way. We've removed all of our buffet elements. So they have options now. They can either do a tray pass option, or they can do it as a fourth course where they get all of their appetizers or their hors d'oeuvres as their first course, moving into their dinners. But what we see is people are still, again, being very creative. As I've heard, there's face masks that people are creating custom. They're having a play on words, which is really fun. Spread love, not germs, which is really fun. But a lot of them are outdoors. They're so much fun. We just recently did one this past weekend where we gifted a couple who has actually changed their wedding date 2 to 3 times. We heard this story, so our vendors and our team came together and made something very special for them this past Thursday. They were still able to hold on to their date, which was amazing. Instead of 150 people, they had 40 people. Tray passed, as I said, very covered options, plated dinner, but it's all outdoors. We have wonderful spaces here. One of our bayfront lawns, which was completely renovated recently. We expanded it by 40%. So what used to seat 150 can now technically in normal times seat 300. So it was really great to seat 50 people, social distance outside. They still have their sweetheart table. They still have their gift table, but they're looking at this beautiful bayfront, and they sit at their seats while they actually are watching the ceremony versus sitting in a theater style seating. They're sitting at their tables watching the ceremony. So it definitely made it a little bit more intimate. People are getting very creative with it, with the decor and the elements that people can have fun. So we're trying out new things and making sure that we can kind of contain them in a smaller setting, and then still giving them that same special occasion that they're looking for.
That's great. Thank you so much. And
You're
Josie, what are people seeing in the world of beauty? Are they coming in? Are you guys open? How is that impacting you?
Yes, so we have been open for a little over a month now, and I've definitely seen some trends with our brides. For those who have postponed their wedding, they're adding on services to their treatment plan to kind of prepare themselves for their big day. Especially brides who have scaled back on their weddings have now funds that they can kind of reallocate to different places. So I'm seeing that some people are definitely adding on services. Our top services when it comes to our brides is definitely going to be our body services and our facial services. Cool sculpting is by far the #1 option when it comes to brides. They love to reduce a little bit of fat in the areas and kind of slim down and prepare for their big day. Most of the brides that we see are wanting to treat the arm area. That just, you know, brides are always wearing those beautiful gowns, and it just really helps to make them feel more comfortable and confident in their skin, and are really excited for their big day. We also love to provide our clients, our bridal clients, with some skincare services, definitely some laser treatment, and we are actually doing facial lasers right now. As long as we have all of our PPE and equipment, we are good to go. We have our KN95 masks and face shields to provide those services to our bridal clients.
Great, thank you. And Woody, I know you mentioned something our brides want to hear, but tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, so we're down in North Carolina, and we still have some pretty strict guidelines in place. Currently, we're still in phase 2, and so our restrictions for weddings are 10 people indoors or 25 people outdoors. And so we have a wedding coming up in a few weeks that was originally 200 people. So we've worked with them. They're down to 90 people, and we're going to do a shift wedding. We actually have 2 outdoor spaces, and so we're going to do two groups from 6 to 8 p.m. and then we'll take a half an hour and clean and kind of reset, and then we'll bring another 2 groups in those spaces. About 10 people from the wedding party and the parents will hang around, and they'll just go from space to visit with their guests. And so we'll have the ability to do everything outside. They'll still get the primary people that they really needed and wanted to have at their wedding there, and still get their primary menu. And so we've just been able to be creative with our space, and they've been a little creative with their guest list, and so they're excited about what we've been able to come up with for them.
That's great. Now, a question actually just came in for you, and that is, it came in from Melanie, and she said, we have a destination wedding planned for mid-November with approximately 40 guests. When should we make a decision to cancel or postpone? 60 days out? Question mark.
You know, I would be in touch with whoever your venue is now. What we've done with all of our clients here, we started talking long ago, and we kind of put everything on the table of what the options were. We've been very lenient with our contract terms. We're reducing our food and beverage minimums. We are, you know, our goal is to work with our clients and our brides as much as possible. This is a once in a lifetime event, hopefully for them, and so we want to make it special. And in our business for years, the motto in hotels and resorts and sales especially has been that it's not what you book, it's what you move. And so we work with people to move dates. We have allowed people out of contracts, including non-refundable portions. You know, we're in unprecedented times here. I would talk now and see what options are, and then work with that venue as you work in. Even this wedding that's coming up in 3 weeks for us, we should have the date that the governor's supposed to make his next announcement is August the 7th. That's 2 weeks before the wedding. My hope is that we'll move into a phase 3 and we'll get some expanded capacities. Some of their guests are already coming and will be here on the island. And so my hope is that we'll be able to expand that guest list a little bit, and we'll be able to include some more people. But work with your individual venues, fill them out now early so that you'll know kind of what their thresholds are, and then work with them. I know for us here at the Shoals Club, we're working really tight in with people, and we've pretty much taken our cancellation clauses and pushed them to the side, and we focused on what's best for the client. Obviously, what makes sense for us as a business. But in these times, I think you'll find most venues are putting the brides and the clients first and trying to find ways to really work with them and make sure that their days can be special, and that we're not adding and piling on to the stress that's already there.
And Kemi, how about yourself? Are you guys doing similar things with your contracts and cancellations?
We are. Yeah, I think it's very much the same as Woody is saying. We're very flexible with our brides. I think the things that are coming up, the events that are happening in the next 90 days have definitely been in contact. But most of our clients have reached out throughout the rest of this year. What we've done is we looked at flexible ways. So again, very similar to what Woody said. We're offering flexible, food and beverage minimums. So if we want to bring those down, if they want to look at lower guest counts, we'll consider that as well. For those that are looking to stay in place, obviously we're keeping a close eye on it. And the other alternative that we're giving them is if you want to continue to hold this and see where things go with the government and with our state, we'll keep those dates, but we'll also find them other event dates in the future. A lot of our clients we've seen have opted to relook at their dates, possibly hold the same date next year. So we're doing things of that nature, which is rebooking them. But oftentimes, we're not here to, make it difficult. These are, hard times for everyone. And these are brides and grooms who are coming out of their personal pockets. So it's their money that's at stake. So we're flexible in giving back and relieving some of that cancellation fees. But if they're interested and open to other options, we're here to work with them as well, as best we can.
Thank you. And Lauren, I know that you see a lot of different statistics, and I just recently attended a webinar that the Knot hosted. Can you share some of the stats with us as far as how many couples are actually postponing, how many are going through with their weddings? What are you guys seeing as the state of the industry?
Absolutely. We've been surveying our couples throughout the entire pandemic, and we just got some new data from a survey where we asked for couples who were scheduled between July and November of 2020 what they were going to do in terms of postponement or cancellations, and we found that 42% are postponing their reception, but 51% are not changing their date at this time, and only 7% are canceling. So what that says to us is that people really want to celebrate, and they're holding out hope that depending where they live in the country, there are going to be some lifts on some of the restrictions, that they're going to be able to have a wedding in maybe later fall time, like October, November. And then those who are postponing are generally postponing to 2021. So we're seeing couples say, you know what, let's just take it off the table. Who knows how long this is going to go on for? We want to make sure that we don't have to change our plans a second or third time. So they're trying to buffer enough distance into 2021 so that won't be an issue. But again, most people still want to celebrate. I think with all the social distancing, we are so eager to get back together, to give the people we love a hug, to spend time together. And weddings are such a beautiful, happy time and a moment of celebration, which I think we all are craving during these chaotic, unprecedented times. So I think that most people still want to celebrate, but they do want to do it safely. Guests and their own health is paramount when they're planning, and they want to make sure that whatever they've outlined as their plan B now, in this case, is going to be safe for both themselves and their guests, and that they'll still be able to celebrate as much as possible when that day comes.
You brought up a very good point in regards to safety, and a lot of our couples have been asking this question, and so I'm going to actually bring it back to you. What are some very specific safety measures that you see couples implementing on their side so their guests feel safe?
So there's two big trends we've been seeing around health and safety, and one of that is a reduction in number of attendees, and then increase in safety measures. And this can mean something different depending on where you're getting married or how you're celebrating. But most people are they're placing a lot of emphasis on that safety. So they're asking their couples themselves and their guests to wear masks. They're, in some cases, much like we were mentioning earlier, there are surveys being asked to the vendors who are celebrating and to the guests who are coming, just to make sure that everyone is really standing by their word and celebrating safely. We're seeing a lot of couples add some sort of virtual component, which is really guaranteed that the people who can't be there with you for whatever reason are still able to celebrate. And we think that's another safety measure, not to put anybody in harm's way, but allow them to still celebrate or be part of the celebration. We're also noticing a lot of people are taking some of those extra measures that I talked about earlier that are trending now of just, less guests, more space, outdoor weddings whenever possible. These ideas of satellite stations and bars, much like we were talking about before, with sitting in your actual seat for the ceremony. We're seeing there'll be new configurations of tables. Some people are only hosting singular families at tables and making them more like mini sweetheart tables, as opposed to just longer tables or those big round tens that we're used to seeing at weddings. So they're really trying to do the things to make themselves and their guests feel comfortable. And usually this is all done in partnership with whichever venue and vendors they're working with. So I think that is like the biggest takeaway is communication with your vendors, communication with anybody that you've already hired or anybody you plan to work with for your Plan B celebration. I know we've heard it on this webinar. I hear it time and time again from all the people who work with us at the Knot. These people are as devastated as the couples to not be able to pull off the day they imagined or the day they had been planning in partnership with their couples. And so being able to kind of come up with some new solutions and think creatively and give each other the benefit of the doubt and assuming that positive intent is so important. But most venues want the same things you want and they want to help you carry that out. So I think that's a really important thing to remember. And they might have already done events like this where they could put forth some creative suggestions maybe you hadn't thought about that will also make you and your guests feel safe and ready to celebrate.
Great. And in light of that as well, yes.
Communication is the key. Communication is the key.
Yeah, everybody's being connected, not just with the client only, but the whole group as a team. If you touch base early on and work together, it really helps everybody.
And actually, now that I have your attention for a moment, how are you handling safety in regards to family, not family portraits, but bridal party portraits and getting, if you have 20 people in a bridal party, how does everyone, do you distance them? Do you still have people touching each other? What protocols are you implementing and or asking the couples to implement?
Well, there's a lot of pre-planning and talking with the client ahead of time to know what the dynamics are of the family and the friends. There are some families who they all live close together and they've all physically distanced together. So you don't have to worry about physically distancing with them, but with the wedding party, what we're doing with many of them is we are putting them in front of a more plain background so we can leave a little bit of space and seam the images together. That's one thing that we are doing. And the other thing that we are doing is finding out, how close the people are as far as what they have been doing for distancing. And so that's one of the things that we're doing. We're working with long lenses, so we're way back from the client. So every once in a while we can pull our mask down so they can see our face, and trying to help people have fun that way, and being a little more silly than usual just to kind of lighten things up so we can still get natural expressions and help everybody feel comfortable and have a great time.
And Danny, how are you seeing changes in the dance floor part of the weddings? Have brides been speaking to you about, hey, bring 2 dance floors, one for each room, or 4 mini dance floors, or how are you guys handling that? And also photo booths, since it's such a high touch experience.
So what we've been doing is spacing things out a little more and utilizing more of the venue space. A lot of these venues have to stay within certain restrictions as far as how many people they're letting in and how much space they have available. For a wedding we did last week, there were multiple tents set up to cover everyone from sun and to keep everybody spaced out nicely. There was not just one dance floor, but there were 2 sections for everyone to dance. And we lit up both so that way everybody knew that it was, there was activity going on here and there was activity going on there. We did uplighting and some moving lights and things like that to keep everybody still happy. The bride and groom were going from one dance floor area to the other. And a lot of people were actually dancing by their tables because maybe that's where they felt they wanted to stay to feel safe for themselves. It really is to each his own on this responsibility. Some people will favor wearing a mask. Some people don't want to wear a mask. So we obviously have to, and we always have an attendant for a photo booth wearing a mask. They'll be doing all the actual touching of the screen, and any type of props or anything like that are basically a one-time use, individually wrapped prop. So basically like a giveaway. Now you can take it with you, have fun with it, enjoy it. We don't need it back. Don't worry about it. Nobody else touched it. It's basically something to keep everybody at ease and still have a great time, as if nothing really, is restricting them.
Great. Now, this is a question for Josie. So, the brides that are getting married and are doing smaller weddings are definitely very interested in looking their best. And the question is, A, how can they feel safe going into med spas, salons, just to get beautified? And B, how long should they plan for this? And what should they start thinking about first if they want their skin to look gorgeous?
Absolutely. So there's a few things that go into these questions. In terms of the first question, every salon is kind of operating differently. I did say that we are operating out of New York, so New York's restrictions are pretty tight when it comes to salon and spas and how we're operating. Like I stated before, we are all wearing PPE. We're having to wear the KN9 surgical mask, KN95. We are wearing our facial shields for if we're doing any sort of facial treatment. We are taking temperatures of all staff and clients as soon as they enter the spa. We have extended our appointment times to allow for social distancing. We only have less than 10 people in the spa at one given time. We've reduced the amount of people who are in the waiting room. We can only have 2 people in there at once. And we are just trying to really work with our clients in terms of spacing out their treatments and making sure that everyone is still on their positive treatment plan. And for your second question, it all depends on which services they're interested in. If it's something regarding facial treatments and you're getting lasers or injectables or fillers, I would at least give it about 2 to 3 months. And I know that a lot of brides have postponed their wedding. And as I stated before, this is a very stressful time for everyone. So I wanted to help to ensure the brides that, you can take some time to rededicate to yourself and kind of make yourself feel more beautiful and kind of pamper yourself a bit before the big day. And, if you've cut back and scaled back on funds or anything else with vendors, you can reallocate those to yourself and really take time to feel your most special and your most beautiful. But in terms of spacing it out, I would say with our most laser treatments and body contouring treatments, you want to at least allow 90 days to see optimal results.
Gotcha. And now a question just actually came in for Kemia, and you had mentioned really creative things that you're doing with food and beverage, and brides are very concerned about how to push forward and with this area, in this area, specifically if they're having a cocktail party and guests do not want to wear masks. What do you recommend the bride and groom do? And should they still have the cocktail party? And in line with that, what creative ways, other than tray passed, do you recommend them handle the bars and food?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. Here obviously in the state of California, masks are required, especially in Los Angeles County and in Orange County. So when it comes to masks, we do require masks to be worn during an event, with the exception of when they're dining. That's a specification that is out there for restaurants as well as venues. So to be creative to get around, if your guests are lacking and don't necessarily want to wear masks during the cocktail reception, our suggestion is to turn it into the 4-course that I mentioned. So instead of doing a tray passed where guests are mingling amongst each other and having to wear masks, which it is hard to control from the bride and groom standpoint and even the planner standpoint, along with the resorts, the best option is to have them be seated. When they're seated generally, and what we're doing is seating guests as families. So with tables, obviously we're able to make them, seat as families, which would be great. But while they're seated and they're eating, they can remove their mask. So turning that cocktail reception into a more a creative appetizer or hors d'oeuvre plating option is a better way, because then it's covered, it's being individually served. It's easier to manage, and you're keeping the guests from flowing and coming in contact with each other. They're sitting amongst their family and close relatives. So if they're sitting at the tables, that's a better way to go about doing that, and then giving them that same presentation, that same culinary experience that they're looking for, but in a creative way of not tray passing it and having the cocktail reception that way.
Great. So now another question just came in, and this is actually for Lauren. And the question came in from Emily, and it says, my fiance and I have made the call to only have our parents present at our wedding, and will stream the ceremony to the remainder of our family and friends. How can we make our guests who have to watch virtually feel special and included?
This is a tough one, but I think it's really easy to do. You know, anybody who's attending really wants to see you and wants to celebrate this with you. So we've seen a lot of creative things. It depends on how big your guest count is, but you could deliver something to the guests who are watching ahead of time, be it a bottle of wine or, you know, something fun. Maybe it's sunglasses that have your wedding date on it that you had already bought and planned to put in your welcome bags or anything like that. But you could put together a little viewing, watching basket or box if it was a manageable number. If it's not, think about ways to get them involved. And I'm sure Danny has some good suggestions for this, but you could do a song list and ask people to request things. You could ask people during designated time to toast you so that they could each have a moment. A lot of people have asked about, like, how do you do a virtual receiving line? There's ways to do it where you can get people commenting in a chat box or even having a turn at the mic, so to speak, to be able to celebrate you. Another thing you can do too is create some sort of video montage of photos and things you could send to them either beforehand or after the wedding so they still felt included. I think it's all about determining who those guests are. Is it going to be your great grandmother? Is it going to be your best friends? And what might feel special to them? How would they like to be included? Because sometimes it isn't as easy as just one overarching solution, but it's about making each of them feel individually valued. A lot of people too are doing their ceremonies now in this way, and so they're eliciting help from their guests who might have otherwise read something during the ceremony, or like I said before, made a toast, and they're still asking them to participate in that capacity. It's just virtual now.
And another question just came in, and that's for you, Woody, and that is, what precautions should couples communicate to their guests in advance of the wedding, in your opinion?
You know, I think, again, communicating with the venue and seeing what they have in place. For instance, here at the Shoals Club, we're requiring masks, much like has already been mentioned, except for when you're at your table. And so we've gone above and beyond to communicate that and have that. But I would ask questions of my venue as well of, you know, what employee policies do you have in place? Every day here at the Shoals Club, every employee signs off on a statement that they've had no symptoms. We do temperature checks. I've bought more PPE in the hotel and restaurant business in the last couple of months than I thought I ever would. So we do temperature checks every morning. We require gloves and masks, even in the kitchen, you know, where it's hot. And so I would ask all of those questions so that they can come to an appropriate, you know, comfort level. And I think they need to feel free to request of the venue or ask if there's something in particular that's a concern for them. Vocalize that and let them know and work together ahead of time. I think what you'll find is that most venues, unless it's something that requires a huge investment, most venues are going to work with you. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable and that their guests feel comfortable while they're here. We all have programs in place. We all have written policies and procedures now. And so it should be something that your venue should be able to share with you readily. This shouldn't be something that they need 2 or 3 days to get back with you on. They should be able to send you how they're operating pretty quickly so that you can review it and so that you know if there's some gaps that you see that you'd like to see tightened up.
Great.
Tatiana,
Yes, of course.
I was just going to say, I think that's an awesome answer, Woody. And I think the best way to communicate to your guests is through your wedding website, if you have one. I think now is a great time to get a wedding website if you don't, because it allows you to kind of share with people how your date might be changing or how, you know, where people are going to stay might change or any of those details. And you can be really explicit there, almost how you would indicate a dress code, right? Like, we want you to be in black tie and wear your mask, or we need this to happen and here's where you are going to park, or here's how you're going to, you know, all those logistics are super helpful to put in there, and then guests know, and you can just reference people to your website so you aren't fielding tons of text messages.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Lauren. Um, of you, Jacqueline, is if a couple doesn't want to or is afraid to put a deposit upon signing, would you still take the business, and how have contracts changed for you with your couples?
That's a really good question. I haven't had anybody ask me, would I take their wedding without a deposit? So my answer to that would be, let me think about that for a second. And I would be really honest with them. And then I would say to them what my policy is. And what my policy is to be very flexible with our couples. Our couples, what we have done with them is we have allowed them their choice to slide their date till next year or the day after, and have a mini wedding as well, or to downsize their wedding to something smaller and be able to do a second wedding as well, or just completely downsize it as well. I probably, in all honesty, would not take on a wedding without a deposit, but I would make that deposit very flexible in that they could slide their date if needed without a problem, because you want people to be able to very quickly be able to get over the stress that they're feeling of worrying about their wedding, but know that they're not going to have to worry about, am I going to lose, my money or my deposit. So our policy is to be very, very helpful and very flexible with people with their date.
Thank you. Now, to that point, we had a question come in that's very similar to that I'll actually open it up to any one of you that would like to answer. And it came in from Alexandra. I'm planning my wedding for May 2021, original date, and I'm trying to not pay vendors as long as possible in case May somehow isn't safe. Do you have any advice on working with new vendors now to not get them angry with me, or ways to hold the date with them without paying right away?
My advice with them, honestly, would be to say to them, as much as your vendors love you, this is also their livelihood and they do need a deposit. But be very careful and make sure that you know and you understand their contract and their flexibility. You want to have somebody that's willing to work with you. You want to be able to plan your date so you can enjoy your planning and lock in your date, but you also want to have the flexibility to be able to move your date. And this way you have the best of both worlds. And if you have somebody who really, really cares, they'll give you the third option of doing something small on a closer date and something bigger later. That's my advice.
Anyone else care to shed light on this topic? Yes, Danny.
So a lot of brides and grooms have been asking us, how we can be flexible. And we've been doing similar to what Jacqueline said, like doing something a little smaller. A lot of the wedding preview events that I've done for free, because it's my way of saying, hey, let's just keep everybody happy that is looking forward to their wedding, and their guests as well. Let's keep them motivated, because it's not going to be the end of the world. It's more so just an extension to a story. You know what I mean?
Great.
Be able to give somebody like an hour of my time and open it up to their guests. I did a wedding preview party, and it was a dance party. And we did a couple of little formalities similar to what Lauren was saying, as far as having them, say a few words and put in requests in the chat. I was even, instead of saying, all right, everybody make some noise, I said, all right, type in your ones and, really get in there. And that 1 hour really made a huge difference to not just the bride and groom, but their guest count, because they were like, oh, wow, this wedding's going to be fun once it's actually able to be this big. Until then, this one little thing that we did complimentary is something that's gone a longer way and kept everybody's mood, somewhat inspired and not necessarily so like stressed out.
Yeah.
And Tatiana?
Yes, of course.
So I think you guys both gave great answers. And I think that is so important to remember, is that these vendors are people who want to delight you with their expertise, with their talent, and bring your day to life. They also are running their own small businesses and have childcare issues and health concerns and all those things too. So instead of, starting out the conversation that you want to avoid paying the vendors, I would say work with them from the very beginning. It sounds like you're still in the planning stages of your wedding. So say, hey, listen, I really want to book you. I love your work, but I'm a little concerned about my date having to shift. How can we put together a payment schedule in my contract that is reflective of the current pandemic we're in and that makes us both feel good? And that way, kind of like Jacqueline was saying, you both can lock in that date and plan for it, but you both know that you're willing to be flexible if things don't work out. A lot of people signed contracts before the pandemic took shape, and there was a lot of language in them that was legally binding and wasn't so flexible. So now I think you have this really unique opportunity to rewrite that contract and make sure that it really works well for you during these weird, unprecedented times. And I think you're smart to protect yourself and smart to really read the fine print and make sure you're working or partnering with vendors who have your best interest in mind, but in addition, their best interest too, right? You want to make sure their businesses can thrive and that you all can realign in May. So go about it from that way of like, how can we work together?
That's great feedback, Lauren. Thank you. We had another question just came in, and this is for Camia. It's a question from Marianne, and she said, what do you recommend if your reception venue isn't willing to work with you? They will only postpone 3 months ahead or won't give you a realistic idea of changes like covered apps for a September reception. Thanks.
That's a really great question. I hear this a lot. And we've been lucky to rebook quite a few of these events, but I definitely would say one first thing is make sure you're very familiar with your contract. That is a key point in that, especially when it comes to venues. There is a clause that is called a force majeure, which is probably becoming very popular at this day and age, which states, obviously, the standpoint of our current situation. This is an act of God. This is something out of our control, something very unforeseen. But what I would say is each individual and each individual property or venue has different clauses into those agreements, whether it's their cancellation, whether it's force majeure. There's very different phrases and clauses. But what I would definitely say is to definitely go back to the venue, sit down and work with them and go through the contract itself. Find out when exactly would be a good point in which you could make a decision. Is it, like you said, 6 months out? And in that 6 months or 3 months or 90 days, whatever that may be, what is your terms? What do you get back? Do you get a refund? Do you get an opportunity to rebook to a future day? Those are very important questions to make sure that any person that is looking to book now or in the future understands their cancellation policy, understands if there is another government order from the CDC or World Health Organization. Where does that help you and how does it get you out? In our particular property, we do have a force majeure. We work with our legal team quite a bit on what that means. We try to do our best to educate our brides as well as our planners on what that means and when they can get out of that. But we try to be very flexible because obviously nobody knows and nobody has a forecast as to when this will end or when things will change, if things will lighten. And I think that sometimes what the venues are looking at is, if you're looking at November and here we are sitting in July, who's to say that this event cannot continue to happen? And I think that's what the venues are thinking of. But go to them and ask them for alternative options. When is a good time period? Can you rebook? Can you use the deposits that you have on file for something smaller? I think those are the questions that you definitely need to ask and make sure you go through your contract with that vendor and venue and find out exactly what your standpoint is. And I know it varies. It changes from every resort and or venue that you're looking at. So definitely make sure you're educated on what that contract says.
So a venue just reached out on a chat and said, be sure to book early because 2021 dates and even 2022 dates are going fast. Is
Well,
that the
it's
case?
funny. Yes, it is. So I was actually going to chime in on the deposit situation question. 2021 is phenomenal. I mean, obviously, you have to realize that on a event side of things, from both social and larger events, there's a lot of events that have been they're booking early. They're thinking outside of the box. They're realizing, listen, maybe I don't want to have a 50-person wedding. I still want to do my 250. I still want all of my family to be there. Some people are doing smaller engagements and getting married on the beach just to symbolize that day. But what they're doing is they're still planning bigger weddings later on. So they're thinking in advance. They still want to hold their 250 plus, people. So they're booking their dates that they want a year in advance. On top of that, we're still seeing a lot of weddings that are coming in now, and it's phenomenal. So what I would suggest is, for those that are looking to book, definitely work with your vendors, work with your venues, book in advance, but work with them on a series of deposits.
Yes.
Instead of being larger, maybe you start off with a smaller scale and break them down. Maybe it's not one large payment or two, maybe it's 5 that gets you to that point. But then again, you need to be very wise in taking what we're going through today and understanding this could continue. I hope to God not, because we really can't, we can't go through that again. However, what you can do is look at what the cancellation term is. Can you put words or verbiage into clauses that will support you and will also support your vendors in working together to get out of this or find another time to push them back? But I think that anybody right now, because we've never seen this before, we're all flexible. We want to work together. We want to make your day very special at the same time. But how do we do that to support each other and benefit one another? And from where I sit today is I have verbiage in my agreements that will allow you to get out of it should we face this again, say May of 2021.
Woody, are you guys booking like crazy for 2021 as well?
We are. We've actually moved probably 80% of our weddings that we had for this year have moved and pushed to next year. So that filled some dates, and we already had some dates for larger events booked. So I would say definitely, be thinking about it. A couple things I would say on the contract is, one, if you've signed a contract and you're working with a venue and you're running into some difficulty, I would maintain and be as calm as possible. I think facts are friendly. I know for me, when someone comes to me and they're like, hey, we need to work towards a solution that works for everyone, we can then sit at the table. If you come to your vendor and to your venue, with the contract and you're confrontational from the beginning, then that neither party wins in that regard, when everybody kind of, wants to hold out the piece of paper and say, okay, so come with the facts. I know if I've got people and they're like, hey, we do lots of destination weddings. So if they're like, people need to make travel plans and so forth, I'm going to back that date up as far as I can. And I'm going to let them make decisions, as early as possible and work with them. If we're in a situation where we've got a local bride and the majority of the people are locally or they're driving in, then I'm going to encourage them to let's work as close to the date as everybody's comfortable before we make any decisions on where to move. And that's if you've already signed a contract. The other thing I would say, just kind of insider information, if you haven't booked a venue, this pandemic has really changed business for everyone, hotels, resorts, the way people do meetings and so forth. And so you may think outside the box and look at some venues that you wouldn't have looked at before, who are going to have some space available, where they're not doing conferences or conventions and so forth, because people are doing meetings via Zoom. And so I think you're going to find some venues that have space that's sitting there that they would love to rent out. And I think they're going to be more creative in how they try to yield that space and how they try to open it up and fill it with some social business that, that may not have been their primary business in the past. And so I think it can certainly work to your advantage as well if you're kind of in the pre-planning stages and you haven't really set out and signed a bunch of contracts yet.
That's really great feedback. And I have a question actually for Lauren that has come in, and that is, what do I do if the RSVPs exceed the guest list and I've shifted to a smaller wedding?
So it's funny you mentioned this. We had a conversation about this around our office. What happens if you are planning a Plan B wedding? How can you let people know they're no longer invited? And I will say, I think it's a really challenging predicament that this couple is in, but I think it's one that will be easily understood by the guests who were intending to celebrate with you. A lot of people have had to make changes to all parts of their life during this time, but especially weddings. So I would say, if possible, contact the people who are no longer invited or you don't have the space for by phone or in a personal manner, not just like a blanketed email statement to say, listen, we'd really love for you to celebrate with us, but due to some of the CDC restrictions or the restrictions of the venue in effort to prioritize health and safety, we aren't going to be able to keep our original invitation for you to join us on that day in person. It's probably a great idea for you to think about some sort of virtual backup that you could do, even if you're just showing the ceremony or parts of the wedding, in case that would be an alternative that would be attractive to this guest. That, we can't have you celebrate in person, but we would like you to tune in virtually. I would advise against that if you are moving from 150 people to 100 people and maybe discounting a few people you didn't really want on your invite list to begin with or something like that, because you don't want anyone to feel left out. But I think most people will be very understanding if you say, listen, we had to scale back the size of our celebration due to COVID, and they will be understanding and supportive and will do exactly as you asked.
And I have one final question, and that's open to any of you, so please, or all of you, and that's basically, how do I ease the mind of my groom during wedding planning and make it less stressful to talk about during this time? Anyone care to help out?
There's no way to do it. There's no way to do it.
I have an answer.
Please share.
Take advantage of all of the wonderful online cooking courses that we have right now and create something new and amazing for him every day, and name it as, this is our honeymoon food, or this is the rest of our life food. I'm building a recipe book for you, and I can't wait till we're married so that I can cook all of these wonderful things with you for the rest of our lives. And then you try not to kill each other.
Yes.
Yeah. I live by the rule, happy wife is a happy life. So
That's right.
This kind of what he's talking about.
Anyone else have any stress relieving tips in regards to the wedding? I know the common theme is number one, communication. If you're communicating with all your vendors, you're communicating with your venue, with each other, that should eliminate some stress. Any other helpful tips, parting tips that we can give to our couples?
Tatiana, I just wanted to answer that last question that you had on the grooms. Although we think that, cosmetic and beauty and all these treatments is mainly for women, men also love it too. They, sometimes pretend like they don't, but they definitely enjoy it, and that can help them to feel a little bit pampered and relaxed before the big day and feel even more confident about themselves as well.
That's actually a really good point, because for photography, that can be great for guys too, because guys love getting their photo taken too, even when they pretend that they don't.
Yes, so we can do just a little bit of resurfacing, retexturizing, whether that's facial or even just a little bit of body contouring. Men are becoming more and more prevalent in these sort of treatments. So do not neglect your groom when it comes to cosmetic or beauty services as well. They would definitely appreciate it and feel pampered.
Grooms get married too.
That's right.
Tana, I was going to give one tip here, kind of in line with not only, making your groom want to plan. We joke that my wedding was my husband's surprise party. I've been there. But I think the most important thing is to really take the time for yourselves right now. I think that all the lines are blurred as we work from home. Everyone's in a different phase in their life right now. Like, I'm trying to work from home and raise 2 small children, and it's all really complicated. So if you set time aside for yourself and say, hey, we're only going to talk about the wedding on Wednesday nights, or, pick a time to really designate, that really important conversation that needs to take place, or checking off your to-dos, but do it in such a way that feels fun. Maybe you make yourself a cocktail, or promise yourself some sort of fun thing as a reward afterwards, dessert, a walk, whatever it is that works for you guys. But setting aside that designated time might help you feel like you're not always blurring the lines and always talking about the wedding.
Yeah.
That is really good feedback, to put it on the schedule, because when you get married and you have lots of conversations that might not be comfortable for both. So putting on the schedule is brilliant. Well, as promised, that we're going to end on time, although there's so many more questions I wish we could answer. I want to thank, first and foremost, our panelists who are so amazing. Thank you for giving your advice and sharing your time and your wisdom and expertise with all of our couples that joined today. Thank you so much for listening, and to the wedding community, that we are strong, and weddings will prevail. Events are going to come back. This is a hiccup, but it's a temporary hiccup, and just stay strong and stay positive, because you will get married. Be it a shift wedding, a micro wedding, a Zoom wedding, or a huge blowout, for 500 of your closest friends. It will happen. So please stay positive. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you soon.